my message did say that you had entry. I mean, the voice I heard. I think we don't hear our own. Yeah,
I heard it too.
I think we don't hear our own. Yeah.
Thank you.
So good. Now let me first start. Hello?
There? Yes?
No, I haven't heard him yet.
Okay. The following participant has entered the conference.
Walton Boyer.
The following participant has left the conference.
Marlene.
Oh, my. Friend, can we begin first by letting me ask, Jack, have you got the recording set up as usual?
Well, I am recording it, yes. Wasn't able to get into that website.
Oh, okay, fine, but you have the recording going, fine. Then I think the second thing we should do, although we've heard these automated announcements, I think we might as well take attendance just so that we know who is here. I have had one regret from John.
The following participant has entered the conference.
What?
Marlene, are you there?
Yes.
Good. Okay. We have one regret from John Dulcimer, and why don't I take attendance so that we'll have in the minutes the exact attendance. Walt Boyer?
Here.
Jack Cumming?
Here.
Jean Hurley?
Here.
Judy Moss?
Here.
Bob Nicholson? Okay, one absence from Bob. This is Dan, I'm here. Pete Stroud? Here. Marlene Garner? Marlene?
Oh, we lost her again. I think she's on a cell phone and may have trouble.
I see. Okay, so far we're missing Bob and Marlene, and then Ruth?
I'm here.
And Joe Walton?
I'm here.
Great. Okay, so we have one regret from John Dulcimer, and we have hopefully a temporary absence of Bob Nicholson and Marlene Varner. So why don't we proceed and hope they can catch up with us. Oops. Okay. You've all received the minutes.
You're scrambled.
Do people here?
No.
This is Pete Stroud. I'm having a hard time hearing you. You're breaking up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether it's my phone or yours.
No, it's coming across in surges.
Okay, let me try again. First, I keep hearing beeps, but I'll just keep going over them.
Somebody's trying to reach you.
I see. Well, anyway, we've all received copies of the minutes. Have a motion to accept them.
Breaking up. Can't hear you.
Wow.
Do you think we should dial in again?
Friends, you want to hang up and try dialing in again?
Now you're clear, so maybe whoever was trying to get you has given up. No, I do just heard a beep.
No, I think it sounds like somebody typing on a touch-tone phone.
Right. Okay. Is it all right now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try again. You've all received copies of the minutes, and everyone has had a chance to offer amendments to the minutes. Assuming that there are no further amendments, I'm asking if there's a motion to accept
The following
the minutes.
participant has left the conference.
Is there a motion to accept the minutes as circulated?
I move that the minutes be accepted as circulated. Jean Hurley.
Thanks, Jean. Is there a second?
I second. Walt Boyer.
Walt Boyer seconds. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted.
Could I just interject? This is Ruth here, but on your proposed agenda B, the question was whether or not the minutes should be posted to the website or published in Lifeline before any revisions, and I absolutely not. And I'm not supposed to vote, but that's
Okay. Thank you for your expression of opinion. We appreciate it. I was just going to get to be. Go ahead, Judy.
There's also a problem with some things being recorded in the video that have been eliminated from the minutes. Specifically at the Dallas meeting, somebody embarrassed himself by raving and ranting, and the president said that will not be in the minutes. However, it does appear in the video, and it should not have. It should have been eliminated from the video just as it was eliminated from the minutes.
Okay. I'm wondering if we can generally agree that we should at least have a chance for. Technically, the minutes are not official until they're approved at the next meeting, and the most conservative approach would be to not publish them until they're approved at the next meeting. But it may be that people would feel comfortable enough if we just had one round of opportunity to make suggestions before they're published.
But the question was the video.
Let's come to the video separately. Jack, do you have any comments you want to make about that?
Yeah, I have a couple. One, Judy, I really appreciate that suggestion. And why don't you email me with the parts of videos and things that you feel should be taken out, and I'll edit them out. And
no, that was not necessary. It was stated at the Dallas meeting.
I understand, but we need.
Item would not be in the minutes, so it was part of the meeting that it would not be in the minutes. It didn't need any further acknowledgement.
Well, that's true, Judy. But what we need is help in doing the work. And if you would do the work of reviewing that, then I am willing to do the editing.
Well, let me.
I don't
There's two
think
different
that's
issues.
right.
There's two different issues here. One is there's a retroactive issue of things that are up there now that maybe should not be there. Okay,
Yes.
But then
The following
looking
participants
forward.
have entered the conference.
Marlene Varner rejoining after leaving cell phone.
Thank you, Marlene. Welcome. So the other problem is the future. Now, Jack, I wonder if it's fair to say that in the future we would rely on the secretary to do the excisions in response to what happens in the meeting, and maybe as far as the past is concerned, we'll just concern ourselves with the one instance that Judy mentioned.
I don't care about the past. It's there for the whole world to see, and it's an embarrassment to somebody else.
Okay.
But I am concerned about if we make statements at a meeting, whether they should or should not be included in the video. Part of the video should be the approved minutes, not the entire event.
Well, the question is, are our board meetings private meetings like the board of a club, or are they public meetings like the board of a membership organization?
If something is stated at the meeting, the president states that will not be included in the minutes. To me, that's good enough.
Okay, was it in the minutes?
Not to.
Was it in the minutes?
It was on the video.
Okay, the video is not
Where do
the.
we go from here? That's the question.
Yeah.
We can't undo what's done.
Well, okay, let me just say that in California, we have a law that resident representatives are allowed to attend board meetings of the providers. The resident representatives are not allowed to report anything from the board meetings that's not in the official minutes of the board, and the minutes are not official until the board approves the minutes at the following meeting. The result is that the attendance of the resident representatives of the provider board meetings in California is a meaningless inclusion because they're not allowed to report anything other than the minutes, and the minutes are made publicly available. Is that the approach we want to take in NaCCRA?
Well, we were talking about the video. Is the video
Do you believe that
amended as the minute?
Okay, when you were on the city council in Mountain View, I assume the proceedings were televised live, were things that were
No,
removed?
I was on the city council before there was television.
Okay, how do they handle that in that context? Do they then edit the video to take out things that the council members find uncomfortable?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. Maybe people are more aware of what they say. But I think if it is stated at the meeting that the president states that will not be included in the minutes, and it was not included in the minutes, then it should not be on the video.
Well, that the question is the video a public record? If it's broadcast live, it would be very hard to exclude something that's been said.
Well, let's say I wonder if it's agreeable to say for the time being that I, as the presiding officer, will try in the future to flag anything that should not be in the minutes, and that therefore, for our teleconferences, we're not videoing, so it doesn't come up, and that therefore should not be published. And I wonder if it's agreeable if, for the time being, we agree that rather than waiting until minutes are approved officially a month later, why don't we agree that once everyone has had a chance to make a comment about the minutes and correct anything they feel is inappropriate, that the minutes can be published. And we'll try that for a while, and I'll try to, rather than asking members to go back and do research, I'll try as presiding person to flag things as we go along so that the secretary knows what maybe shouldn't be published. Would that be an agreeable order of procedure for the time?
Well, but we're recording this phone call, so it would be the same thing then as...
Right. In other words, so I would assume that if anything occurs that we agree should not be in the minutes, that I will flag it, and that therefore the secretary will delete that portion of the recording.
But I would encourage the board to be careful in their utterance if there's something that they would be later be ashamed of. We don't have the kind of...
I agree with you more.
Because we don't have the kind of staff that you may have been used to in your public life. This is people doing work themselves, and it takes many hours of effort.
Well, I heard agreement that we're willing to proceed on the basis of flagging in the moment things that maybe should not be in the minutes, that by and large board members will be aware that what they're uttering is being recorded, and that rescinding their utterances is very labor intensive, and therefore will be careful of what they say.
But as a practical matter, this Pete Strom, how many recorded meetings do we have? Most of the meetings, as I've seen, have been by telephone.
Right.
Well, they're
A
recorded.
meeting in Dallas.
That was the board meeting.
Yes. And Pete, every one of our teleconferences is also recorded. And Jack, you do put them on the internet, don't you?
They're available. I doubt anybody pays any attention to them.
But they do go on the internet.
But in the since we're arguing for transparency from providers, we're trying to be exemplary in providing transparency, and that's really the question. Can we hold the providers to a higher standard than the one we would meet? And I don't think we can. So we have to think of it in that context.
Joe Warren here. Jack, is it possible for you to show the videos at the same time that the drafts of the written minutes of our meetings are published so we can look at both at the same time and approve or change both?
The video takes probably 30 hours of effort to get up. It's very time consuming. And if it's
if we have a public meeting open to the public, then we should not edit a video of that public meeting, regardless of what's said.
The following participant has entered the conference.
Bob Nicholson.
Welcome, Bob.
We have a nurse visiting, and it threw me off. I'll be here for about 30 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. So I think there are large philosophical questions behind this on the issue of transparency, which I think will take much more time than we want to give to it right now. So why don't we, I think I'm hearing that we're all going to be aware that our present practice is to act as if these meetings are occurring in public, and that therefore we will speak accordingly, and that I will try to flag instances if something goes awry, and we can decide if we need to do something about it.
Yeah, this is Jack. I support that proposal.
Yes, Gene Hurley, I also support that.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, also.
I have no problem with it as long as the president doesn't say that won't be recorded in the minutes. We can't have it both ways.
I see. In other words, Judy, you're saying that either we have to accept the fact that we're speaking in public, or else, and therefore, anything we say will be public.
Yes, and
you can't do it.
we can't do it one way for written and one way for TV.
Right.
May I interrupt for 1 minute, too, because it's very explicit in Robert's rules that you do not have to report everything that is said. The only thing you have to report is the action that was taken. And now I don't know how you handle somebody that...
And I would propose that we go to action minutes. I think our minutes are much, much too long, and some things are omitted, like in the last meeting it says something about the distinguished speakers, blah, 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 but it didn't mention the names of the distinguished speakers. And distinguished speakers certainly should have their names mentioned. So it gets very icky, and I agree with you, Ruth, we ought to have action minutes.
All right, so
I don't know how you're going to resolve this, but it's very clear in Robert's rules that there is a tendency to report too much detail. The minutes should contain, just the things the action that was taken.
Okay, is that a consensus of the board that they don't want the discussion recorded, they just want the action?
Amen.
Amen.
Well, now, when you say recorded, I mean, if you're going to record on film everything that takes place, I don't know that having blanks in there, like the 18-minute blank in administration, is a good idea. Either do it all or we don't.
Yeah, I agree.
And we live in a day and an age when everybody's got a cell phone with a camera and a recording and so on. And, if you don't think that what you're saying in public is public, then you're crazy.
Well, that's the tragedy of it all. I'm sorry I'm editorializing, but, we've lost focus here. What we're doing is right.
I'm hearing that we want to veer more toward action minutes, less full minutes, that we understand that for the time being our deliberations are public, and that therefore we will be guided in our participation by that knowledge.
And if necessary, we could always go into executive session and turn off the machines.
That's right.
Okay. I think I hear agreement on that.
Yes.
Okay. I'm kind of lapsing into Quaker process here, which I shouldn't be doing. I should be asking for a motion. Can we have a motion?
I'll move it. It's Jack coming.
Okay, is there a second?
What is your motion, Jack?
That the meetings are public, that the minutes will be simply action minutes, that somebody who wants the discussion has the recording available, and that sensitive matters will be discussed in explicit executive session.
Okay, so the recording will be posted.
Yes.
Yes.
The recording will not include executive session.
Yeah, there'll be no recording in executive session.
Executive session should not be recorded.
Exactly.
But
So we
that's
have
in the
we
future,
have a-
yeah. When we go into executive session in the future, it will not be recorded. The past has already been recorded. And I second Jack's motion.
Okay, we have a second.
Just the way Jack stated it.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. The motion carries. Thank you very much. This has been a useful discussion.
Bob Nichols, where are you on the agenda?
Bob, we're on
Number one.
agenda item 1B. We're now going to agenda item 2.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. So we've taken a bit more than the 6 minutes, but I think it's been a useful discussion.
That's what I was confused about. Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. You've all received a draft which I tried to make responsive to our 2 previous conversations of a communication to Larry Minix. I haven't had anyone speak to me or communicate with me about it, so I'm just wondering if we're ready to go with these texts or whether anyone has any changes to propose.
Yeah, I emailed you, Jean Hurley here, and my feeling is that it's NaCCRA which is withdrawing from doing programming and planning with Leading Age rather than the other way around. And I have listed, all of the spring meetings that had featured speakers from NaCCRA, the names and the names of the topics that they covered. And
featured speakers from Leading Age.
I mean, that's what I meant to say, featured speakers. And for the last couple of sessions, we haven't had any speakers at all.
Well, Jean, did I interrupt? Jean, I remember your email. I didn't think it was focused on this letter. I thought it was focused on the venues that we were thinking of having our future meetings at. So I wonder if there's anything that you have to say about the text that were in supporting document A.
Yeah, my recommendation was that we don't make any moves. Don't send any letters. Don't worry about, I spelled all this out in my email, and everybody should have gotten a copy of it. We don't worry about a memorandum of understanding. We forget all those things, and let them make the next move. In the meantime, let them know that we expect them, as they have in the past, to always be present with us when we have a meeting in April or in the fall. We're hoping somebody will always be there with us. I disagree.
Yeah, I don't agree either.
Okay, wait a second now. Wait a second. Bob wants to speak and Judy wants to speak. I heard Judy's voice first, so why don't we hear from Judy and then hear from Bob?
And then Ruth.
And then Ruth.
And Jack.
Okay.
And Ed Wall.
Okay. Okay, so Judy, you go first.
Okay, I did not comment on your letters because I thought that was going to be done here at the meeting. On your draft letter to Larry Minix, the 4th paragraph, everyone on the NaCCRA board values, I would change that because I don't value our present relationship. I don't know what our present relationship really means.
Let me ask Judy, what don't you value?
Pardon?
What don't you value? I mean, the free...
That's what I don't know what our present relationship is. to
Well,
value.
it's very clear. You've got to be on board here. It's very clear. It's to participate in their annual meeting, to be given a display booth, to participate as recognized in the plenary sessions, and from time to time, as Jack has put together, to have educational sessions. That's the present relationship. And the present relationship is also to have NaCCRA staff speak at our spring meeting. So it's not a ill-defined thing, and every one of those things should be supported toward a better relationship. So to pick on everyone, you're not informed.
I disagree.
Okay, I'm not informed. I disagree.
Yeah, I disagree with that too. I think she's quite well
Well,
informed.
wait a second. Judy has spoken, and then we're going to have Bob, Walt, and Jack.
Okay, so that paragraph I would eliminate. And on the letter that you're sending, I would have it, let me see, holding the phone with one hand and looking through papers in another is difficult. It would not be a letter of intent, it would be a letter of cooperation. A letter of intent makes it very formal and probably legalistic, and I don't think we want to go into a legalistic deal. On the end of the first paragraph of the letter, it says, and other elderly people. I think we should be concerned with CCRC residents, period. Once we go into other elderly people, we conflict with every other, not every other, lots of other organizations that exist. I think we should define ourselves as a niche group concerning CCRCs and CCRCs residents only. Leading Age is a provider of services to the elderly. We are not. And I did not look up in the dictionary, but I would change collaborative to cooperative. And
where was that? In other words, that's the first paragraph. Co-op.
That's the first, yeah. And the other elderly people, I would strike completely.
Right. I understand. Okay, I got it. I made a note of those, but we'll see if we have agreement on it. But the next person is Bob. You want to speak?
Yeah, Judy's points are well taken, but I think we have got to continue to keep the conversation going. The letter, in its intent and spirit, keeps the conversation going. We can deal with collaboration, cooperation, elderly people. We are just a gnat on the rump of an elephant. That is, we are, and to think that they're going to worry about some of these small words. And I'm for the small words, but I'm also saying that we must, from a membership point of view, we have got to keep the relationship going. We have got to be at Leading Age. We do major membership recruitment at the Leading Age annual meetings, in the booth, in the seminars we go to. We meet people as board members. It is an opportunity beyond all other opportunities to expand our membership. And my vote is, it's a great letter. It's got the right spirit in it. It says we're open. We want to grow the relationship. And I'm not worried about collaboration or cooperation or agreement or intent. You can fine-tune that, but let's don't kill spirit in which the letter is written.
The spirit is fine for cooperation. I never got time to go on to the second paragraph of the letter, where I have some problems. But Bob, is the general statement as far as membership. NaCCRA is an organization for residents. Leading Age is an organization for providers of services to the elderly, of which
Judy, I interrupt you. You're preaching to the choir. We all know that.
Yeah.
We all know that. That's beating a dead elephant. We need to be there with the providers and the other residents, and we need to build a relationship.
If everybody knows it, I will say nothing more. but I think we will be losing California. Will be definitely out of the picture.
Let me ask in order to have an orderly discussion here, you said that you didn't complete your comment on the second paragraph of the draft letter of cooperation. What was your comment on the second paragraph? And then we'll go on to Walt.
I don't think that we need to say anything about programs being submitted to the board, meeting annually. All of that is just we will cooperate, period. We don't have to define how we will cooperate because that gets into all kinds of problems if we don't necessarily want to meet with them once a year, or we may want to meet frequently, we may not. It just doesn't have to be in the letter.
Okay. Walt, you were next.
Yes. I agree wholeheartedly with Bob in that we must keep this discussion going. It's imperative that we do so. I think the letter is a good letter. I disagree with Gene in that we received a proposal from Leading Age that was very one-sided from their perspective. Gene is trying to make this one-sided from our perspective. We are going to need to compromise and put things in this agreement, whatever kind of an agreement it is, that reflects the interests of both sides. And we cannot say that the other side's words can't be in that letter. We may, somehow we will have to distinguish, perhaps, between the two, but other than that, I think we're going to have to find some compromises that conclude the purposes and objectives of both sides.
This is Jean Hurley here. Yes.
Wait a minute. Gene, I'll put you on the list after Jack. Is that okay?
Sure.
I'm trying to have...
I would like to get in there, too. Ruth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ruth, I forgot that you were going to be in the list. I'm trying to make a note here, and I made so can we have Jack, Ruth, and then Gene?
Yeah, but
Walt, you finish. Walt, you finish yet?
If you continue this...
Okay, the part about going to the board. Gene makes a good point there. Can we say, instead of submitted to the board, will be approved by each organization in accordance with their standard procedures or something like that?
Right. Okay. Got that? Okay, I'm making a note of this. And Jack will have another recording as well.
I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Walt. Jack, you want to speak, and then Ruth, and then Gene.
Well, I'm just... I started with the question, how do we imagine Leading Age would respond to what we write here? But, some things which are evident. One is that Leading Age is gigantic and we're minuscule. Two is that we've had no contact whatsoever with any Leading Age member. Our contact has been solely with staff. Three, we have no involvement other than the representation by Mariana Caldwell, Marlene Varner, and someone else in the governance task force. We've had no involvement as an organization in the policy councils of Leading Age. And fourth, the way our panel presentations have been treated makes me think that they're willing to entertain us when we act the way they believe residents should act. But if we raise questions of regulatory matters, they don't want to hear from us. So that makes me be more supportive of Judy's notion that we shouldn't get ourselves into something legalistic, to use the term she used, but something. They've proposed an affiliation agreement. We were talking a memorandum of understanding. There's been informal cooperation between our organizations. I think that's good. As I understand it, Larry Minix attributes to Ruth in her presidency the suggestion that we formalize the relationship. I think we can just say that the board has decided that we don't really, that it's fine as it is. We welcome the cooperation, and that we think that formalizing it is taking up more of our energy than that could be used for other things, and that we go back to working together on our respective missions.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Ruth?
And I add a bravo to Jack's statement, and just really do formalize, trying to formalize the relationship has been a study in futility. But I got to say that in my experience on the board, we have had representation from Stephen Magg most every meeting we've ever had. We've had Larry Minix there as well, and when he can, but everybody's schedules are such that it's impossible sometimes for each of those people to be able to be with us. Stephen really did apologize for not being with us in April, but there was a terrible conflict. So this is the first meeting in my knowledge that neither one of those people from Leading Age were able to be with us. So that's just a PS to other comments that are made. But I think the issue of having nothing legalistic but a very welcoming, cooperative venture is probably going to make better sense at this point.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Jean, you wanted to speak.
Yes. I'm looking at the first line of the second paragraph. It says their officers will meet at least once a year. I've gone back to the spring meeting and the fall meeting of NaCCRA, and they have always been on our agenda as speakers, sometimes the keynote speaker, but they've always been there. That means that the officers have been meeting, at least twice a year in the past. Why is it that we can't keep them on the agenda? And, you mentioned, Dan, that you'd like to have the spring meeting in Pennsylvania. And I pointed out that Leading Age always has their spring meeting in the Washington, D.C. area. And if you'll look at the NaCCRA spring meetings, you'll see that most of them have been in the Washington, D.C. area, so that we could participate with the Leading Age spring convention, which we have been doing. Let's get back to being where Leading Age is in the fall and in the spring. And there are lots of CCRCs in the Washington D.C. area, and having our meeting at one of these is a good idea. Not that I have anything against Pennsylvania, but the thing about it is,
I'm not advocating Pennsylvania. It was just the most convenient thing for me to think about.
Oh, first. I know. Yeah.
Well, I'm not,
I was responding to that.
CCRCs throughout the entire state of the United States of America.
I know that, but Leading Age does not have their spring meeting, and the spring meeting of Leading Age is important. Jack Matheson rounded up a whole group of NaCCRA people to attend the Leading Age conference in April this year, and he reported on it at our meeting. And the rest of us need to be there. But at least that's the way I feel. I've made it a point to go where, NaCCRA meetings are. We did have a meeting in Bridgeport, West Virginia once, which was really, I couldn't believe how long it took me to get there and how frightening it is to go up and down the hill.
Mr. Chairman,
even there, on the agenda was, I don't know, I put it down on the agenda that I sent out to everybody. There was, I think it was Larry Minix or Stephen Magg, one or the other, because one or the other has always been at our meetings.
Mr. Chairman, isn't the place of the meeting a separate topic?
Well, it keeps getting blended into this topic. I agree that it should be a separate topic.
What I'm saying, is that if we meet where Leading Age meets twice a year, our officers can come together twice a year, because they're both there.
Mr. Sharman, Nicholson here. I've got to tell you that 10:45, Betty has an appointment I've got to go to. Let me close just by saying the spirit of your letter is good. I agree with the editors that Gene, Judy, others have suggested, but with Walt, we've got to move forward and keep the conversation going. So with that, I'm going to pass out. Not too bad, but I'll see you later.
Figuratively, I hope.
Thank you, thank you, Bob. I hope everything's going well there.
The participant has left the conference.
Bob Nicholson.
Friends, let me see if I can be helpful by summarizing where I think the drift of things are.
I haven't had a chance to speak on this yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, Marlene. Okay, people want to speak. Marlene, you go ahead. Does anyone else want to speak?
Joe,
besides Marlene.
I just want to sputter.
Joe, okay. Joe and Ruth. Go ahead, Marlene.
One of the things that made the relationship work so well was Susan Weiss. When she was the vice president for advocacy at Leading Age, she always came to every meeting we had, including West Virginia. She became a life member. She got Larry Minix's life membership. She was very devoted to our that's true, view of things in the whole scheme of things. I think it's very important for Dan to have some dialogue with her about what we're doing here, because she has some insights that I think you would find extremely helpful. Good. She is no longer working for Leading Age, but she is still very active in affairs. I think she's doing some work with the estates at Carpenters. She is a life member, and she stays in touch.
And in addition to that, Susan Weiss is now an honorary member of the state of Carpenters. So in essence, she could, she is a member, and she is of Carpenters.
But for Judy Moss's point, she's not a resident. I disagree with Judy that going too narrowly limits us. I think we need people like Susan Weiss who are not residents but who can contribute to our cause.
Okay, so Marlene, have you finished before I turn to Joe?
Yes.
Thank you, Marlene. Go ahead, Joe.
I appreciate the comments that have been made here, and we can pick out particular words or phrases to say there's risk in that, but there's nothing in what you have written, Dan, either in your letter to Larry and the letter of intent, that is not manageable. I think the last paragraph of your letter of intent says it all.
Yes, I do too.
We've got to go ahead with this, and my suggestion is that we authorize Dan to proceed with the letter. I think the letter that he's written to Larry has the proper spirit. He may want to make a few changes based on the comments that have been made here, but my book, the letter is good, and the letter of intent is fine, and I'll remind everybody that we're reaching out not only to CCR residents, but people in continuing care at home programs. And I think reaching out to other elderly people speaks to that. And again, paragraph, adequate language to safeguard us. We proceed.
Is that a motion, Joe?
No. Let me ask Joe, why do we have to go ahead with this?
Well, I'm going to second Joe's motion.
Why can't we just do nothing?
Well, if Joe made a motion, let's discuss his motion. And I'll second his motion.
Okay, so we have Joe's motion. Is there any discussion of? And Joe's motion has been seconded. Do we have any discussion? I'm assuming that Joe's motion allows that the letter of intent can become a letter of cooperation, and those word changes that I've made note of can be incorporated.
My interpretation of his motion was that he allows any changes that you and your discretion as president deem needed.
Right. Okay. Good.
Correct interpretation.
I still don't understand why we have to go ahead and do anything. Why not just do nothing?
Joe
said we have to go ahead with this. Why?
Because as a resident of a CCRC, I value a close working relationship, a constructive relationship with administration. And that's,
we all do. We all do.
About
can I interrupt, friends? Friends, can I interrupt for a minute? Let me just leave the chair for a second and just say one thing. And Jack, I hope will concur with this. One of the things I'm trying to do here in this letter is assuming that all the things that Bob mentioned that go on now, the free booth, the free, the various things that Bob mentioned that now constitute our present relationship, that we value those, that we want them to continue. In the conversation with Larry, I got the impression that he wants some, you might say, some sense of advance beyond the status quo. And so in putting in that we would meet at least once a year, I think having them to 2 meetings a year is not necessarily sitting down and consulting with them about what projects we might do in common, which is what that second paragraph is meant to do. That's what I was pinning my sense of developing something that's responsive to the conversation that Jack and I had with Larry, where he felt that our original memorandum of understanding didn't move beyond the status quo, and he wanted to move beyond the status quo. So I thought this was, the idea that we might meet once a year at our mutual convenience, which doesn't pin us down too tightly at all, and that we would talk specifically about cooperative activities, which is a little bit different than having them as a guest or as a speaker at an event. That would be a little increment of advance in our relationship, which would make Larry feel that some progress has been made. So there's kind of a human dimension to this.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: are we in our agenda for Nashville? Are we going to make it a point to put on the agenda somebody who's going to give us, what you're talking about, what we can do cooperatively, and tell us all what it is that, leading age and CCRCs, what's the future? What can we all do? They've been on the agenda in the past. Let's make it a point to get them on the agenda. That's more important than a letter.
Well, the thing is, we're going to talk about the agenda later, the agenda in Nashville. I'm just talking about right now how the letter I drafted was an attempt to be both responsive to 2 discussions that we had in this board, plus a conversation with Larry Minix.
No, I think it's time to approach them about the agenda and say, we're really counting on you to be with us.
Let me say that's part of a different discussion that we'll have about Nashville. So let's just talk now about the letter. So we have a motion and we have a second. We've had some discussion. Shall I call for the vote now?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yes, I'm opposed.
One opposed. Okay. So the motion carries. Thank you, friends. This has been a valuable discussion. I appreciate it, and we'll go on to the next step. Can we turn now to the next agenda item? Oops, I've lost my agenda. Here we go. The next agenda item is the Bill of Rights project. I circulated to you a very brief discussion of where we are in terms of Bill of Rights activities. I'm wondering if we need to have much discussion about this, or if we can proceed to the plans for Nashville rather expeditiously. Are there comments on the written report that I circulated regarding the Bill of Rights project?
Just one question. How many responses did you get from people, or you have a goodly number of people who are undertaking this project?
Well, I gave you a list of the different communities I've heard from, and that's the list so far. My sense is that since I wrote that material I sent to you, the demand, so to speak, is winding down. The number of emails are not coming in as fast. I have gotten response. I have not gotten any what you might call corporate responses. I haven't gotten any responses that reflect discussions by groups. I have gotten about 6 individual responses at this point, and the individual responses, some of them are somewhat brief, some of them are longer and more thoughtful. Gene Hurley has given us a fairly substantial response. I'd say of the 6, 2 of the responses I got were what I would characterize as being negative. That is, they are skeptical about the need for the Bill of Rights, and they are skeptical about the tone of the document. Those are 2 comments. On the other hand, the other 4, or the other 3, aside from Gene's, were very enthusiastic, and in fact, some of them represent back and forth when people have been asking for more questions, and they seem to think this is a hot potato that they're really anxious to participate in. So there's a range of character to the responses, but so far I only have feedback from individuals, not from groups.
Okay.
Dan,
may I ask?
Okay.
We have
I hear both. I hear both Joe and Marlene. Marlene, why don't you go first and Joe second? Marlene, go ahead.
I would like to see us have an article in Lifeline, and to continue to encourage the discussion.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
I think material for the next issue.
Good. I'll try to get something together for that. Joe, did you want to speak? Did I hear you trying to speak?
Yes. Here in Connecticut, my perception is that the outlook towards developing a Bill of Rights is very positive. Something that wants to be done, it should be done.
Good.
My sense is that here in Connecticut, the initiative is already underway. It will go forward, probably largely independent of the Bill of Rights project that you have developed and are leading, Dan. We're interested in sharing information. A Bill of Rights was discussed at the Contra's annual meeting in May. I will forward to you the minutes of that meeting and other documents pertinent to the discussions that took place. But I think that they will continue on the track of developing a recommendation and working with the advisory council here in Connecticut.
This is Jack. If I can jump in there, since Joe's report on Connecticut, I can report that California has had a Bill of Rights in law for some years, but a new Bill of Rights law, which again is independent of Dan's project, was voted out of the Assembly last week. That was a huge advance, and it would strengthen the Bill of Rights concept considerably in the state. There's a great deal of controversy with it. If it's passed in the Senate, as now appears likely since it got out of the Assembly and since both houses are controlled by the same party, then it's likely to go into law here.
Excellent. Good.
So could we get a copy of that Bill of Rights that is going through the California Assembly?
That's correct. What? I don't understand what you said, Gene.
No. Can we all get a copy?
Can we get a copy of that California, the newest California?
I sent you all a copy.
Okay, we all have it already. Good. Okay. I didn't know whether it was only me or everyone has it. So if we look at our emails, we'll find it. Good.
Okay.
Can we turn to plans for Nashville? I think the first thing we want to report, Jack, is this okay, is that Leading Age has declined to include our proposed workshop in their regular schedule. Is that not true, Jack?
That's correct. They turned us down. My sense of what they do is that if residents talk about the resident experience, they're willing to entertain that. But when we talk about regulatory matters or matters of substance, they're not eager to have that on their program.
Well, at any rate, that's sort of been decided, and that's just the way it is at this point. So, but on the other hand, that means that it gives us an opportunity on this Sunday morning slot that we do have, that they have sort of helped Convention Center, we could conceivably just borrow that or use that program for our Sunday morning event. That program was going to really focus, with the help of Catherine Pearson, on the Model Laws Project, and we could maybe Jack submitted that. Maybe we could brush that up somehow. Jack and I have been in touch with Catherine Pearson on another matter. Catherine Pearson does have a trip to Nashville on her calendar, and she seems willing to come. The correspondence that Jack and I have had with Catherine indicates that she's kind of busy, and that she's under some publish or perish pressure from her supervisors. So I'm inclined to sort of want to draw her in and make good use of her, and yet maybe give her a little bit of latitude in terms of what she would like to focus on, so it doesn't become an additional burden. I mean, obviously she'll focus on something of interest to CCRC residents, but maybe we could negotiate with her a little bit on just what the focus of that Sunday morning event would be. How do you feel about that, Jack?
Well, of course, we were on the proposal. We included Lynn O'Connor, who's a very senior and leading provider executive. So I was a little surprised that they were willing to turn her down. I don't think she would participate. Jean has made the suggestion that we include somebody from Leading Age on the program. I don't know. I guess Steve Mogg is the one who probably represents their lobbying. We could work with Catherine to see how we could work that out. But I think we could certainly. There have been a number of issues that have come up that are issues of substance, some of which are covered by the model law, some by the Bill of Rights, and some are purely contract questions. We could certainly put together an interesting program around those things. I do think we want to make, if we're going to ask Catherine Pearson to be there, we have to give her truly a central role and let her express things that are of interest to her.
I second that.
Yes.
And vote.
Yes. Well, I'm wondering if we should. I wonder if we're coming to this conclusion. We understand that the educational slot is not going to be a possibility this time. We understand that Catherine Pearson is apparently at this point is willing to be with us in Nashville. I think we have to get back to her and be sure she understands that the new time slot is Sunday morning and not some previous time she had in mind, which may have been during the week. So we'll have to double check her availability on that. Maybe since Jack is our kind of research academician here, we could assume that somehow me and Jack and Catherine will work out a fascinating program for Sunday morning to bring back to you as a proposal at the next meeting or the meeting after next. But in the meantime, we'll be planning Jack and Catherine and I will be trying to plan a Sunday morning event that will be of general interest to residents and other attenders at the Leading Age Conference, and proceed from there. Is that agreeable?
I have a question, Dan, for clarification.
I have to sign off.
Okay, thank you, Ruth.
Joe Walsh.
The following participant has left the conference.
Ruth Walsh.
I should say that Ruth did warn me that she would have to leave early. Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Would a presentation along the theme of look for CCRCs in the future
Going to be quite a while.
from a resident's perspective, would that theme be precluded by what Jack said is NaCCRA's or Leading Age's position on an educational slot? I think there's a very positive story. And if it's presented from a resident's perspective, the future for CCRCs, that's a win-win topic for both sides. You know,
well, Catherine Pearson, in as much as we want to involve her, she has already addressed that, so it wouldn't be a whole new preparation. She has this article, "Will Continuing Care Communities Continue?" So why don't we take that? We can't reopen we can't reopen the question of a slot in the ordinary educational program of leading age, because that's now closed. In other words, they're going to press with their So why don't we take your suggestion under advisement as something to talk over with Catherine as we plan the Sunday morning event? Is that a good idea?
That's great. Perfect.
Okay.
Gene Hurley here. You know, I have expressed this before. You know, in my experience, the Sunday morning slot is a slot that Leading Age prepares the program for all the residents who come, and then they have a lunch for everybody. That's not just for NaCCRA. That's for all the residents who have signed up for Leading Age. Now, in Dallas, the only people who came to that morning session were NaCCRA people, and the only people who came to the lunch were NaCCRA people, and they had prepared a lunch for, 3 times as many people as were there to eat it. I have always found that Sunday morning program to be a really worthwhile program, except in Dallas. In Dallas, I thought the whole thing was a waste of time.
Yes, so we want to not repeat. I think we can all agree we don't want to not repeat what happened in Dallas. Now, I'm working with I've temporarily forgotten the name of the person I've been communicating with about this Sunday morning business.
Sharon Carver.
They had their meeting in the afternoon from 3 to 5:30. That's when the NaCCRA meeting has always been. The morning meeting is for all the residents for Leading Age. The afternoon meeting is the NaCCRA meeting.
Here's my understanding. The Leading Age program begins Sunday at noon, and so anything that we do Sunday afternoon would be competing with Leading Age activities, which I don't think we want to do. As far as I can understand it from the Leading Age person I've been dealing with, they're assuming that we are going to program the Sunday morning slot.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. That's what bothers me. Dallas is the first time we've done that. The rest of the time, the Sunday morning program has always been for all the residents who signed up, and it was sponsored by Leading Age.
Gene, this is Jack. Leading Age has changed their posture. And the reason why it worked out the way it did last year, as you've noted, was because they decided not to publicize the activity to those residents who were not informed by NaCCRA, and that has to do with that. So why don't we let the people who are working with Sharon Parver at Leading Age handle the details, because they're up to speed with what Leading Age is actually doing for this year.
Well, you're assuming that NaCCRA is going to be in charge of the Sunday morning program. Why shouldn't they be? They've never.
Well, why not?
Dallas was the first time they did it because the whole thing was a waste of time when we did it. That's why.
Gene,
the Leading Age program.
Gene, can I calm you down just for a little bit? As far as I understand the intent of the representative from Leading Age with whom I have been dealing, for better or for worse, is that she is assuming 2 things. One, she's assuming that we will program the Sunday morning slot, for better or for worse. Now, from my point of view, that's an opportunity. Second, no one is assuming that the Sunday morning slot is only for NaCCRA members. We want everyone to come, whether they're residents who are in NaCCRA or out of NaCCRA, or whether they're providers. Anyone can come to the Sunday morning session. Third, my understanding from the person I've been dealing with at Leading Age is that they are willing to publicize the Sunday morning, either give us the list or themselves to publicize the Sunday morning meeting to every resident, NaCCRA or non-NaCCRA. So that's the understanding that I've had so far.
In the past, I have gotten a personal letter in the mail inviting me to the Sunday morning meeting that Leading Age, arranged. Because all they know, these letters went out to everybody who signed up as a resident.
I didn't get one.
Okay. Well, the important thing is that for Nashville, we're going to try to be sure that every resident, whether they're a NaCCRA member or not, is going to be invited to the Sunday morning event. Furthermore,
with a personal letter in the mail.
I don't
with a letter?
Do it some way with email. However it'll happen, it'll happen. And the second thing is that I'm assuming that even though, Gene, your recollection in the past is that Leading Age ran these things, if they're willing for NaCCRA to run it, I think opportunity for us, and we should seize it, not shrink from it. That's my own point of view, because we want to reach out to these residents who may not be members of NaCCRA.
Well, all I'm saying is that the Dallas experience, it may be a lesson.
Not good. We all agree with you. We all agree with the Dallas experience, but that's because
it's going to have to be a lot more meaningful.
Whatever happened at the lunchtime at Dallas was just a disaster, because we assumed, at least I was assuming, that had anything to do with it, it's not my responsibility, but I was assuming that as the previous year, that the luncheon was going to be programmed by Leading Age, and Leading Age just vanished at that luncheon, just left the food, so there we were. So I'll do my best, and Jack will help me, we'll do our best not to have a repeat of Dallas in Nashville. We all understand that Dallas thing was not ideal. Okay, can we turn... so does everyone understand the wavelength we're on? This is still in flux. We understand that we're going to work with Catherine Pearson. Zach and I will work with Catherine Pearson, try to get an exciting program together for Sunday morning, try to be sure that every single resident who comes to Nashville knows that they're invited to Sunday morning. And we'll still have to work on the lunch. The lunch is still up in the air. I know that we're invited for lunch. I know they're going to provide a lunch, but how the lunch will be programmed still has to be worked out.
And why not, in addition to getting in touch with Catherine Pearson, make certain that somebody from Leading Age is going to give a presentation as well? That's important.
Okay. We'll work on that. Does that agree with everyone?
This is Pete Straub. Let me jump in for just a minute. My experience with Catherine Pearson, and I've heard her speak to a subcommittee of the Virginia legislature, and her perception of many of the solutions to whatever problems we may come up with is federal legislation. And I've got to tell you, one, I don't think that's possible, because as the Cole Commission, Senator Cole's committee in, I guess, 2010, refused to do anything like that because they said this is not a federal issue.
Right.
And I want to be sure that you all understand, I take what she says with a grain of salt. She is an expert. She's got a lot of experience. She's done a lot of research. But her solution to the problems, as I remember it, generally was federal legislation, and that isn't going to happen.
Pete, this is...
I think Catherine understands. I think Catherine understands that to be the case. In other words, she was promoting federal legislation. There was a Senate hearing. She found the results of the Senate hearing, and she's now understanding that the legislation, if any legislation occurs, will have to occur at the state level. I think that's old, Pete. I think that's old news. In the sense that I don't think she's any longer has that expectation.
This is Jack. Her idea is that we have a Bill of Rights for independent living and assisted living residents, like the Bill of Rights for the nursing care, and that is her end thing. And we have a different concept. That was what was going to be the discussion in the panel this year that Leading Age turned down was the future of regulation at the federal level or the state level, and we were going to have people from both points of view. I don't think that would be where she would go with this thing in that's coming up in Nashville, but why don't we start with her and explore it, and then make sure that anything that happens there is balanced. Because I think that's what you're saying, Pete. And I happen to think you're absolutely right, and I think there's a way to get there. It's a little tricky to get there, but some people think we should go state by state. That's not going to work, and that's what I think you found out there in Virginia. But I think we do have a friend in the NAIC if we can just build that friendship up.
Gene Hurley here. I have to agree with Peter Straub. I heard Catherine at when they were doing the CCRC study here in Virginia, and I was not terribly impressed with what she had to offer, to say the least.
Thank you for your opinion.
I think the model law concept, though, is a guide for state legislators, and that's one that we ought to explore more fully. I think that's the way to go in terms of Bill of Rights and other things.
Yeah, the model law is for the Bureau of Insurance for each state to adopt.
Whoever it is that.
And I'm excited about the model laws. I never have a meeting, but I don't, include examples of the model laws. I feel like this is really an important project, and it's one that we really should, put our shoulder to.
Well, the original focus of the program was the model law. So why don't Jack and I will work with Catherine with all of this conversation in mind, and come back to you with hopefully a more fleshed out proposal for that Sunday morning event. Let me just try to wrap up this part of the discussion by saying I hope everyone has hotel accommodations in Nashville. We've just done all this by email. I don't think we need to do anything more. But if you don't have hotel accommodations, they're disappearing fast. You should get them soon.
I want to stay at a hotel where the most of our group is staying. What is that hotel?
That hotel is the Downtown Best Western on Front Street.
Okay. Union Street.
What is it called? Union Street. I'm sorry. Don't let me misspeak myself and send you to the wrong hotel. It's the Downtown Best Western.
On what street?
Well, I think it's 711 Front Street.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But it says Downtown Convention Center. So if you're booking a hotel and it doesn't have the words Downtown and Convention Center, then you're at the wrong one.
Right. It's a
711 Union Street, yeah. 711, yeah, there's one at 211 North 1st Street.
Yeah, there are many of them.
711 Union Street, they're both downtown.
Okay.
Okay.
Where most of us are, I think.
Yeah.
711 Union Street. Okay. Now, can we turn to this matter of the venue for the April 2015 meeting? We have, I mentioned Philadelphia, Gene has mentioned the Washington area, Jack has raised the possibility of meeting with the NAIC, in conjunction with the NAIC meeting, which would be in Phoenix, Arizona. I think we're coming kind of to the end of our tether in terms of having this telephone conversation. But I'm wondering if I could get if there's any thoughts that
And I here. Major question.
Yes.
Is there a reasonable assurance that if we go to Arizona, that we will get the attention for our program that we're seeking from the insurance commissioners?
No.
If there's reasonable evidence that will pay off, then I say let's go for it.
I think Jean sort of segued into this because Jean was saying she thinks we should advance the model laws. The way to do that is the path to that is through the NAIC, because they have great authority. There is another organization called the National Council of Insurance Legislators that also has influence, but it doesn't have nearly the influence that the National Association of Insurance Commissioners has. But no, the NAIC is not looking for us to come to us. They're not looking for additional responsibility. They're not eager to get into the CCRC industry. Nobody is. And we're kind of on our own in trying to advance our interests.
That's a long shot. If we go to Arizona, it's a long shot. We'll accomplish reasonable progress.
Well, it's a long shot with Leading Age too. Now, Gene suggested we go to their peak meeting. Our experience has been that they're not really. We don't generally meet with provider members. Somebody said our officers should get together. Larry Minix and Steve Mogg are not officers in the way that the provider members are officers. I don't think we've ever had a meeting with the officers of Leading Age, so that would be no different. The reason we met originally with Leading Age was because they made all the arrangements for hotels and that sort of thing, and picked a venue and created content, and we were able to piggyback on that, and we can do that in connection with other associations as well in the same way.
Jack, can I ask a question? Jack, if we did go to Phoenix, I don't think we need to say in advance that we would succeed in rounding up the NAIC into our camp, but do you see a reasonable work plan where having 12 board members, 11 board members of NaCCRA in Phoenix at this time, would there be a work plan which would advance the cause of getting the attention of these commissioners to the CCRC conundrum?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure, okay? I would think that we would want to approach it through somebody like this fellow Goggin, was the Connecticut insurance commissioner at one time, and who's a resident in a CCRC, but probably more productively through the Florida connection, because Florida has very close relationships with its insurance commissioner, Kevin McCarty, and he could give us advice on how best to proceed if we were to work through that. I think Charlie Polk has a very close personal relationship with him. Bennett certainly has close personal relationship with Kevin McCarty. So I would look for them to advise us on how best to approach what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Jack, let me ask this question. Gene, just let me ask a question, then I'll turn to you. Jack, if we did decide to go to, I take it that before we decided to go to Phoenix, we'd have to have some consultation with the people you just mentioned to see if they see a useful strategy that we could follow once we were there. But let me ask this question. Given everything that you are now doing connected to NaCCRA, anything that we did in connection with NAIC would rest very heavily on your shoulders in terms of orchestrating it and choreographing it. So the question I guess I have is, do you see that between now and April of 2015, you would be able to, if a preliminary exploration with these people you've just mentioned indicates that there might be some useful role for us to play, would you be ready to choreograph it for us?
Oh, I certainly would. Now, in all fairness, though, I should say that I've only been to one NAIC meeting in my life, so I know secondhand how these things work. I'm sure Joe does as well, because Joe's been involved with insurance, and he knows the preeminence of the NAIC in the insurance industry. The NAIC is run by the insurance commissioners of the different states. So to get on their agenda, you have to have the backing of one of these political leaders, the insurance commissioners of the states. It's their association.
I'm wondering if we shouldn't be thinking of meeting wherever the NAIC is in 2016 rather than 2015.
Well, that might be a very good possibility. And also Walt Boyer, I think, may have connections there in North Carolina.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. I can write in to our commissioner as well, or to Steve Johnson, who is his guy for CCRCs.
And I think Mel Grossman would be interested in doing it in Ohio. He's beginning to be a little more self-confident about jumping into the advocacy area.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, are we talking about something which to carry out realistically might be better for 2016, or should we keep it on the agenda for 2000? Let's give ourselves another month or two to consider doing it in 2015.
I guess I don't. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have to decide this today. We can be thinking about it a little bit.
Okay, Judy, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted
Wait a minute, Judy.
to say that I think we need a meeting of the board that will have time for lots of discussion. Obviously, we get very little done on this telecon. That's finding out who are we, where are we going, what is our mission. I think that, granted our mission statement is written out, but where are we really going? Are we including all the elderly, as somebody said, or just CCRCs, as I say? I think we need board time, 2 days of just discussion amongst ourselves without all the periphery.
Okay. Did I hear someone else trying to speak?
Yes. One of the pieces of information that will be helpful in evaluating this is to find out where the NAIC will meet in 2016.
Yes. Do we know that, Jack?
Yeah, we do. I've sent the schedule around, but I'll send it around again.
Okay. I think Marlene, I think we do know that we can't remember it right now. Okay. So let's assume that we can give this another little while. We don't have to decide on a venue for 2015 right now, although my sense of what it takes to get something like this organized means we shouldn't defer too long, but let's give it another couple of months. Okay. Finally, I wonder if there are any comments.
Can I interrupt one second? I think
Sure.
one of the things that Gene mentioned is the piggybacking into a spring meeting of leading age, and if it's in Washington, then that would make that a good site. And even if we decide to come 2-3 days early and deal with our own minutes and information and problems and so on before their conference, that would make sense.
Right.
Good idea, Pete.
So, in other words, right now, I'm assuming that for another month or two, we're going to leave it up in the air whether we're going to be in 2015, this next year, whether we're going to be in Washington, whether we're going to be where NAIC is, or whether we're going to be somewhere else, like maybe Philadelphia or somewhere else. So we're just for the moment. Okay, just before we close our meeting, I wonder if there are any comments on the Treasurer's report.
I just comment that we're down some $3,000 from where we were through the end of April a year ago, and that's taking out the one-time restricted contribution or donation. And despite the fact that I suspect that the revenue from individual members and to some extent community members has been inflated by those who tried to, who were successful in sending in their payments under the old dues structure. we allowed that, and
Right.
they took advantage of it. So we face a significant challenge. One more question is that I wonder the outcome of the annual meeting in Mystic. Was that a break-even situation, or did the revenue exceed expenses, or vice versa? And I guess we're waiting to see that.
Yeah,
Waiting to see that, right.
Dan, this is Jack. I think in the absence of John Dulcimer, we should defer Joe's questions, which are valid questions, and merely receive his report. So why don't we just record that the board received the report and let it go at that?
Okay. I think my sense is that if we carry on these teleconferences for 90 minutes, we're doing pretty well. So I think we're ready to adjourn, and I'm hoping it's agreeable if we have kind of a one agenda meeting next time, which is focused entirely on membership and membership issues, and I've given a list there at the bottom of the agenda of what that might all include. So let's be thinking of that as our July 2nd meeting. And of course, if any of you have any suggestions for other things that can't wait until August, I'll add them to the agenda as well. Are we ready to adjourn, friends?
Ready?
Good. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion that we adjourn. Joe Walton here.
Second.
Joe Walton, second. So, okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, everyone, I hope you all have a very nice month of June. Thank you for participating.
The following participant has left the conference.
Marlene Varner, rejoining after leaving